There is something about human nature that most philosophers chose to avoid, not out of ignorance, but because it is deeply uncomfortable. We speak of desire, power, and attachment, as though they exist somewhere outside of us, in other people, in circumstances, in fate. But Jung saw it differently. He wrote that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. What holds us in psychological dependency is never truly the other person. It is the unexamined part of ourselves that uses that person as a mirror. You are not dependent on a person. You are dependent on an unexamined part of yourself that requires that person to feel complete. The next 20 minutes are not about relationships. They are about the architecture of the inner world, about psychological laws that have governed human dynamics since the time of Machiavelli, and which most people never recognize because they have never looked inward long enough. 7 laws. Each one predates psychology as a formal discipline. Each one you have violated, and perhaps never knew why. After you see this, you cannot unsee it. How much does air cost? Nothing. And precisely for that reason, no one thinks about air. No one values it, no one fears losing it, until it disappears. This is not a casual observation. It is a foundational law of value that Adam Smith identified in 1776 as the diamond water paradox. That which is most necessary costs least because it is always available. The diamond serves no survival function, but it is rare, and so it commands everything. The human psyche operates no differently than the market. What is always accessible loses psychological weight, not through coldness. Through neurobiology, the brain adapts to constant stimuli and stops registering them as significant. Habituation is not a choice. It is the nervous system doing its job. When presence becomes a constant, it becomes background. And what exists as background does not generate desire. But here is the distinction that most people miss entirely. Manufactured scarcity is manipulation. The person who performs busyness to raise their perceived value creates no real worth. They only delay the moment when the performance becomes visible, and performances always become visible. Authentic scarcity is a byproduct of a person genuinely building something larger than any single dynamic. Mission, intellect, character, mastery. When a person is truly occupied with their own growth, their absence is not strategy, it is reality. The question is not how to appear less available. The question is, what are you building that makes your presence a genuine sacrifice? When the human brain encounters a predictable stimulus, it adapts. It reduces sensitivity. It conserves resources. Neuroscience calls this habituation. The first impression of a scent is vivid. The 20th is background. Not because the scent changed, because the brain learned to anticipate it. The same process governs people. A personality that can be fully read ceases to stimulate cognitive engagement. The brain closes the file and stops searching for new information. This is why Nietzsche wrote that the secret to harvesting the greatest fruitfulness from existence is to live dangerously, not recklessly, but with a depth that cannot be fully mapped. The self that remains partially unknown generates continuous attention, not through performance, but through genuine complexity. Behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner demonstrated this with what he called variable ratio reinforcement, the same mechanism behind gambling. An unpredictable reward schedule generates stronger behavioral engagement than a guaranteed one. The brain does not become addicted to certainty. It becomes addicted to the search. The readable self is psychologically inert, but the critical distinction, unpredictability, born from authentic complexity, is not the same as deliberate inconsistency used as a tool. One emerges from a rich inner world. The other is simply chaos performing as depth. The difference is perceived instantly, below conscious awareness, in the body before the mind can name it. Nietzsche also warned, "The moment you are caught in a lie, it is not the lie that does the damage. It is that you can never again be fully believed." Manufactured mystery destroys the very thing it attempts to create. The question is not how to become less predictable. The question is, how deep does your inner world actually go? Now, something that most people do not want said aloud. We are all protagonists of our own story, with our own contradictions, our private darkness that we never showed to anyone because we were not certain it could survive exposure to light. This is not weakness. This is the architecture of human consciousness. Most people, when drawn to someone, perform. They display their accomplishments, humor, and personality, like a merchant arranging goods. They speak about themselves, believing that if the other person simply knew how interesting they were, attraction would follow naturally. It does not follow, not because the other person is cold, but because their nervous system is already completely occupied with their own story, their own contradictions, the conversation they have been having with themselves all day. A person who is performing is simply noise competing with a dialogue already in progress. Machiavelli understood this. In The Prince, he observed that leaders who listen more than they speak accumulate information that those who speak more than they listen never possess. Listening is intelligence gathering. Speaking is intelligence revealing. Stop performing. Start doing what very few people ever master, listening with predatory intensity, not polite listening, not nodding while waiting for your turn. The kind of listening where you catch what lives beneath what was said, where you notice the half-second pause before the answer, where you ask the question that surfaces what the person has been carrying for months, and no one had the presence of mind to ask. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of the self we hide not because they are evil, but because we believe they make us unworthy of connection. The person who acknowledges another's shadow, not with empty comfort, but with genuine recognition, creates a bond that 6 months of consistent warmth cannot replicate. I see this in you, and it changes nothing. That sentence, spoken at the right moment, bypasses every social defense the other person has ever constructed. You hold the mirror. You decide what it reflects, and when you remove it. This quiet, invisible presence is the most powerful position in any dynamic. Think of the last time you changed yourself, your opinion, your plans, your tone, before the other person even asked. You did it preemptively, to keep the peace, to not seem like too much. That is not love. That is the posture of someone who has already placed another person above their own judgment, and the person on the other side felt it immediately. Here is what idealization does to the psyche of the person being idealized. It repels. Not gradually. Immediately. At the instinctual level, before conscious evaluation can intervene. The moment a person senses that another has placed them above their own standards, something in the nervous system registers this not as devotion, but as weakness. This is documented. In attachment theory, anxious patterns are triggered not by coldness, but by excessive availability and idealization. The person who is placed on a pedestal does not experience worship as flattery. They experience it as pressure, and then as a signal that something is fundamentally wrong with the one worshipping. The mechanism no one explains clearly. Admirers do not desire celebrities. A fan worships, reorganizes their entire inner world around the object of adoration. The celebrity cannot desire the one who has voluntarily diminished themselves to make another larger. The asymmetry eliminates the possibility of desire. When you place another on a pedestal, you have made yourself their audience. Stoic philosophy addressed this directly. Marcus Aurelius insisted that seeing people as they actually are, rather than as we project them to be, is the foundation of rational engagement, not as cynicism, as clarity. Destroying the pedestal does not mean contempt. It means seeing the specific person, interesting in some dimensions, ordinary in others, capable of poor decisions and small moments, subject to the same contradictions as yourself. Disagree when you disagree. Not to demonstrate strength, but because your perspective is real and deserves space in the conversation. People do not fall toward those who are already below them. They fall in the direction of someone who stands at eye level and refuses to move. Recognize this moment. Something is said that lands wrong, a comment with a sharp edge, and before you have processed it, you are already speaking. Words come faster than thought, the voice slightly higher than it should be, and somewhere in the middle of it, you feel it. The sensation of losing ground in real time. The more you explain, the worse it becomes. But you cannot stop, because silence feels like defeat. Every word in that moment is a withdrawal from an account you did not know existed. That account is not made of charm or argumentation. It is made of psychological mass, the density a person accumulates when others cannot fully penetrate their inner world. Every unnecessary explanation depletes it, every justification that no one requested. Epictetus wrote that nature has given us one tongue but two ears, that we may hear from others twice as much as we speak. But the deeper principle is this: words are not simply communication, they are intelligence. Every sentence reveals how you think, what you fear, where your edges are. The person who distributes this freely has no psychological territory to defend. What silence does in the moment of provocation: it removes the feedback loop. Something was thrown, a challenge, a test, and a response was expected. Your words would have confirmed that the throw landed. Your silence is the absence of that confirmation, and the absence of social feedback is, neurologically, deeply unsettling. The pressure applied returns to its source. This is not coldness. Coldness is emotional withdrawal, used as punishment. The person on the receiving end distinguishes between the two in the body. What I am describing is the natural composure of a person so settled in their own frame that external provocations do not demand response. Marcus Aurelius: you have power over your mind, not outside events. The 3-second pause before responding to anything that triggers reaction is not drama. It is the physical space between stimulus and response that separates the person who governs themselves from the person governed by reflexes. Your silence is not emptiness. It is presence, dense, specific, impossible to ignore, and the other person will fill your silence with their own projections. What they fill it with tells you more about where you stand than anything they would have said if you had kept speaking. Hear this, the most dangerous sentence in the psychology of attachment: I need this to work. The moment that lives inside you, even quietly, even disguised as devotion, you have surrendered the single, most valuable thing you possess: genuine willingness to walk away. People sense this, not through calculation. Through biology, Humans evolved to detect desperation below the threshold of conscious thought. And desperation signals one thing: the balance of need has tilted. You require something from this dynamic that you cannot find anywhere else. Schopenhauer observed that all suffering originates from desire, specifically from attachment to outcomes we cannot control. The person who is not attached to a specific result does not suffer from its absence in the same way. This is not emotional detachment as a philosophy of avoidance. It is detachment as psychological freedom. Locked things cannot be desired. They can be pitied, used, or kept, not desired. Most people remain in dynamics that diminish them not because they cannot see what is happening. They remain because of emptiness. Because leaving means confronting a space that feels, in the moment before entering it, like something from which one might not recover. But that fear is not love. At 2 a.m. they are indistinguishable. But love does not require you to diminish yourself to sustain it. Genuine willingness to leave is not a tactic. It is the natural posture of a person who has built a life that does not depend on any single dynamic. A person with their own direction, their own capacity to be alone without being diminished by it. And here is what is rarely said: the moment the other person understands, not because you announced it, but because they felt it, that you are genuinely prepared to release this, something shifts at the root level of the dynamic, not because you became a threat, because you became real, because you are now a person with edges, with a self that exists beyond them, and a self that can be lost. The possibility of genuine loss is what transforms comfort into desire. The paradox is almost unbearable in its precision. You hold what you are willing to release. The person who grips hardest watches it slide through their fingers. The person who opens their palm is almost always the one toward whom the other reaches. But only if the open palm is real. Here is the final truth, the one that reframes everything that came before. You were never trying to control another person. Somewhere beneath these 7 laws, a part of you hoped for a code, a sequence that would finally produce the result that has kept you awake. And here is what has been true the entire time. This was never about anyone else. It was always about you, about a person whose inner world was operating unexamined. You were not controlled by another person. You were controlled by your own nervous system, running unchecked, your own fear of abandonment, hijacking your behavior in the early hours, your own need for validation, transforming you into someone you do not recognize in the morning. The double message, the unsolicited explanation, the apology offered to preserve a peace already lost, none of that was done to you. Your unexamined inner world did that to you. The other person was simply responding to what you were broadcasting. This principle contains all the others. The economy of scarcity works only when you are genuinely building something in the space you create. Authentic unpredictability has weight only when it comes from a person who is genuinely complex. The mirror functions only when the person holding it is stable enough not to disappear into the reflection. Eye-level presence exists only in a person who knows their own value without external confirmation. Sovereign silence lands only when it comes from genuine composure, not suppressed anxiety. And willingness to walk away is real only when there is somewhere real to go. Every principle collapses without this at the foundation. Govern yourself. The person who performs goodness is not actually good. They are conducting a transaction disguised as generosity. They give their time, attention, endless accommodation, not from abundance, but from an unconscious belief that if they give enough, They will finally receive the love and validation they cannot generate themselves. Every act of kindness is a deposit made in expectation of a specific withdrawal. When the withdrawal does not come, they are confused, because they believe they had fulfilled their end of the agreement. There was no agreement. There was never an agreement. There was only a person too afraid to ask for what they actually wanted, who wrapped that fear in the language of self-sacrifice. Jung called this the persona, the social mask worn to receive approval. But the persona exacts a price. The more perfectly it performs goodness, the more distant the authentic self becomes from conscious awareness. And what is not integrated into consciousness will be experienced as fate. The transformation is not from soft to hard, from warm to cold, from giving to withholding. That is not transformation. That is the same wound with a harder shell over it. The transformation is from fear to clarity. The person who occupies that space is simply honest about what they want, about what they will accept and what they will not, about who they are without layers of performed accommodation. They give from abundance. They set limits from self-respect. And when they love without making that love a leash around their own throat. The throne is not something another person gives you. It is not something that arrives with the right circumstances or the right sequence of moves. The throne is internal. It was always internal. It existed before any particular person entered your life. It will exist after. The person who was always there inside you, these 7 laws did not create them. They simply cleared away everything buried on top. I want to leave you with something that is not a tactic. Everything examined here, scarcity, authentic complexity, the mirror, eye-level presence, sovereign silence, the open palm, the governed self, none of it is a system for extracting outcomes from other people. Any person who takes these principles and uses them as weapons has missed the entire point, and has proven in missing it that the work has not yet been done. The relationship you have with any person in your life is a direct and unapologetic reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. What changes today, if anything changes, is not how you behave around others. It is how you understand yourself. Nothing broke you. The dynamic did. And you built the dynamic from the materials of your own unexamined fear, which means you can build something different, from different materials, beginning now, not tomorrow, not when conditions change, not when something is resolved, now. Schopenhauer wrote that the greatest mistake is to sacrifice health for any other advantage. Replace health with sovereignty, with self-knowledge, with the willingness to look at your own inner world without flinching. That is the only work that has ever mattered. One question before you leave: which of these 7 laws hit hardest? And what did it cost you? Write it below. Subscribe. The next video continues exactly where this one ends.